Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Victory Road's World Cup, sponsored by Elgato, GG Tour, and Metafi. We're here in the week 5 of the group stage. I'm Yuki Zaninovich, and here I'm joined by Evan Wong. How's it going, Evan?
Hi, I'm doing well. I just came back from an in-person tour in Singapore, back in my country, and it was really fun and really fulfilling. So I can't wait to actually cast a few more matches again tonight. And we are starting the night off early for the both of us here in Asia. So it is gonna be a really good time, and it's nice to just do it with friends and really be really comfortable in the night.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, just being with friends like this, it's easy to be casual and just have a more organic commentary. So I really appreciate that. But yeah, definitely we're representing the Asian time zone here. And yeah, speaking of socials, I think we can go ahead and kick it off by introducing the kind of socials you can look at to keep in touch with Victory Road. So you can see from the top left, we have VGC Victory Road. Give them a follow on Twitter if you want to just know about what kind of matches are happening when. The overall stream schedule. Give them a follow to get those updates. You can also take a look at Victory Road VGC on Twitch, and you're on it right now. Give them a follow so you get the actual notification when the streams go live.
Yep, and then importantly, all the information will be available in www.worldcupvgc.com. I'm starting to think that it's going to be like the Olympics, where you get to follow these scores live, get to follow your favorite teams, your favorite players, and actually get to see what teams they bring. And like speaking of teams, yesterday's matches were so explosive, and actually the stream in yesterday's broadcast, all matches, all four went to 2-0. They didn't even go to game 3. So for today, like, they were really commanding. And for today, I kind of wish that we can actually cast matches that go to game 3, and because those are really quite exciting.
Yeah, definitely. So we can go ahead and take a look at today's matchups for today. So we have Papon Jirawattanakul over from, I believe, Thailand, facing off against David Rodríguez over from Costa Rica. Then we have Andre Escobosa from the Netherlands facing off against Kenneth Gamboa over from Mexico. And then the third match is Giulio Tarlau from Italy versus Tarn Birdie from the United Kingdom. And then finally, we have Ryan Losetto from Canada and Julio Martinez over from Argentina, which I believe is an exact rematch from World Cup last year. Is that right, Evan?
I think so. Yeah, it was it was Canada versus Argentina. So I kind of recall that Ryan lost, if I'm not wrong. So it will be interesting to see that match happen again. And looking at the players today, just no strangers to sort of the online scene, and players that really have been performing well and doing well in online tours and also tournaments in their own region. So we have good representation from Asia, and then we have from the EU region, and also quite a few people from the LATAM region as well. So we don't really want to count them out. So I am curious to see how these matches will turn out today and how exciting they can get.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Like a lot of players that have a lot of visibility, and I mean, especially Julia Tarlau versus Tarn Birdie. I mean, those are two big names that we usually see. Like, I think those two have been in like multiple top cuts of like World Cup, like Victory Road tournaments. During the pandemic, we had some tournaments hosted by Victory Road, and they're in those top 16 brackets. I feel like I wouldn't surprise me if they've already faced off in the Victory Road tournament like this before. So yeah, really excited to see all these matches. But I think we can go ahead and take a look up at the first matchup between Costa Rica and Thailand. So in the current situation, Thailand is leading 4-0. So Costa Rica, the best they can hope for is a tie, but definitely be helpful for them as they go into the last week of the group stage next week to end on a tie here. So I think we have a lot on Papon's shoulders in this matchup.
Yeah. So from this group 4, the current situation is that Thailand actually managed to tie with India in week 1 of groups. Then Costa Rica fought a very close match and lost 3-5 to Hong Kong. So looking at the score here, they really do have to win that last 4 matches to even get a shot into qualifying into top 16. So if they lose, then unfortunately they are out of the competition. So it has been a really good run though, like being able to get into the group stage for the first time, and also did a really good like 8-0 win against Indonesia all the way back in week 1 of World Cup, if you guys remember. So that's yeah, like it could be hopeful, and let's see what these players bring us. So looking at the teams in front of us, yeah, I think pretty like regular teams to really want to help their country win in this like do or die situation with their back against the walls.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I saw a couple, Eternitus over on Thailand's side, and, they're up 4-0 with that. So really, really cool to just see like all the, just the diversity in teams doing well. So yeah, it's kind of interesting to see what you kind of called out, like we really need Costa Rica to win this one if they want to stay in the competition at all. So it's kind of a win-and-in situation already just in the second week of the group stage. But yeah, Costa Rica just got to give this match all they can. So yeah, really excited to see how it goes, and I think we can take a look at these individual players here.
Yeah, so going into our player introduction, Papon actually played in the World Cup last year, and this will be actually his first time being featured on stream altogether for both World Cup 1 and World Cup 2, and he's really very excited for it. Last year he used a few Zacian Pelipper teams and went 3-3. Then on the opposing end, we have David from Costa Rica, and he is a new manager this year. Last year, he played as well with a 1-2 record, and this year he's been using interesting team of Zacian and Xerneas. He also has a few like accolades on the screen, as you can see here, back in 2017 and 2018 during the Sun and Moon era.
Yeah, and I think it's quite interesting because it seems like David used the Zacian and Xerneas, the same exact team for week 1 and week 2. So maybe Papon has a bit of the information advantage. Like, is David going to bring the Xerneas Zacian again, or is it going to be a different team? It's the mind games already begin before the match even begins. I think that's the interesting part about World Cup is it's not like a regular tournament where you don't know who you're going to play every round. You know exactly who you're going to play every week to prepare. So we go ahead and see that, yeah, David did not bring Xerneas, actually brought the exact counterpart of Xerneas and Yveltal. So over on David's side, we see the Incineroar, Yveltal, Zacian, Regieleki, Grimmsnarl, and Blastoise. And over on Papon's side, we see, Zacian, Groudon, Incineroar, Charizard, Gastrodon, Grimmsnarl, I guess what we would now call the Rinja Sun, arguably definitely one of the most, top 3 most standard teams in this meta, I think. And, David's side is a little bit more unique in that I'm not sure if I've really seen this combination before.
Yeah, that's true. With Zacian and Yveltal, Incineroar and Eleki, these 4 are usually a common core, but putting that Gmax Blastoise potential in the mix with that residual damage, that's really interesting. And going up against the Charizard, when you talk about counter teaming or doing homework and prep, I laughed because this Rinja Sun team is the perfect counter to something like a Zacian Xerneas. So Papon really did do his homework, but still bringing a really solid team that is just tried and tested in the format like all season long. So curious to see how David can adjust and even try and maneuver his way out, since these teams really require a lot of good positioning.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I'm really interested to see if David ends up deciding to bring the Blastoise at all, because we have the Gastrodon on the other side, can't use the Gmax move that's really known for. So we already see that Blastoise is not being led, and we see the Incineroar and Regieleki over on David's side, and then we see the Incineroar and Grimmsnarl coming out on Papon's side.
Yep, here we go again. Like, this seems to be a good primer into Worlds 2022, because these are leads that really players have been using all season long. Incineroar and Grimmsnarl sort of being able to position and do collect good information from the opponent, as compared to the Incineroar and Regieleki, a lead that generally tends to be quite hyper-offensive on turn 1, or Regieleki can opt to do some switching with Volt Switch to get into a better position.
Right, and I think one thing to call out is the Regieleki. I think that's something that's been picking up in popularity recently is Life Orb Regieleki, so that If it's able to go for the max lightning, it can go for the one-hit knockout on popular Pokemon like Grimmsnarl if there's no light screen, Incineroar, Zacian. And yeah, it's quite powerful here, but obviously the only deterrent is that we have two ground-type Pokemon on Papon's side that can easily switch in. So I'm really interested to see if, one, is David using this Life Orb variant Regieleki, and two, is he going to go for the max move to try to get that one-hit knockout on either of these Pokemon? And we see the Groudon switching for the Grimmsnarl, so it could be bad if the target went into Groudon, but we see no max.
No Dynamax coming out. The fake out from the Incineroar was able to move first, and notably David's Incineroar didn't go for fake out. Regieleki simply goes for Rising Voltage. That could even hint to the item that it's holding if you want to turn Rising Voltage into a powerful max move, but catches the Groudon switch in. A neutral play from both sides, and David is still being patient to not Dynamax. With Incineroar and Grimmsnarl lead, yeah, it's very difficult to predict whether both ground types will be at the back or not. But now I feel like the Groudon does have a bit of control because it's coming in fresh and it's not being intimidated by an Incineroar.
Yeah, completely agree. And we see the Incineroar switch out for the Yveltal here, not wanting to take a Precipice Blades. Makes a lot of sense, but also something that could be very easily read by Papon's side. So curious if Papon is able to take advantage of this as the Regieleki protects.
Yeah, well managed by both players. Being able to switch well. Let's see what the Incineroar goes for last. Manages to go for the Throat Chop, trying to catch the opposing Incineroar, going for a parting shot, but catches the Kyogre upon the switch in. Good play from David to just protect the Regieleki and get Incineroar out safely. Then he would be able to bring Incineroar in again to ensure to get Groudon back, to control Groudon's attack stat, right?
Yeah, completely agreed. So yeah, the Regieleki could easily Volt Switch or Hard Switch into Incineroar here to reduce Groudon and both Incineroar's damage output. I think one thing to call out here is that the Yveltal took very minuscule damage from the Throat Chop. Yes, it's been intimidated, but also gets the Dark Aura boost from Yveltal. Despite being half damage due to the Dark typing of Yveltal, I think that's quite small damage, so it might indicate this Yveltal is the Assault Vest variant that's a little bit more bulky. So yeah, I think Yveltal has the Life Orb variants, the Assault Vest variants. I'm really interested to see what kind of is it the offensive or defensive kind of Yveltal.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. And when going up against sort of like the Rinya Sun team, the items do come into play because there's so much flexibility for players to customize their teams. And same goes for Zacian Yveltal team. So all the dark types are on the field now. We do see the Oblivion Wing being the first move of the Yveltal, going into Grimmsnarl, being able to heal itself back to full. A little bit of confirmation that Papon's Incineroar is faster here, which is why he's confident of going for the Throat Chop, but doesn't go for the Throat Chop this time, goes for Parting Shot to try and control the Yveltal, just in case the Yveltal tries to steamroll with max Airstream, right? But I'm curious to see why David is so patient with his Dynamax, all for the first few turns of this game.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great shout. One subtle thing I noticed from David is that he actually went for an Oblivion Wing into the Grimmsnarl instead of a Dark-type move, which usually would do more damage thanks to the Dark Aura ability of Yveltal, so possibly indicating that he really read that Groudon switching out into the Grimmsnarl. So I think that's quite impressive. But yeah, going back to your point about conserving the Dynamax, I guess it makes a lot of sense. The Incineroar is relatively safe over on Papon's side, and if you Dynamax your Yveltal, and clearly, as we saw from last turn, it doesn't have the Life Orb item, so can't really knock out Incineroar in one hit. And if it gets hit by a Parting Shot as it Dynamaxes, I think it wouldn't be so great for it. So it makes a lot of sense to me that David is being patient with it and considering the Dynamax, but it looks like Papon begs to differ over on his end.
Yeah, pulling the plug here, going straight for the Dynamax on the Groudon with the Incineroar on David's side of the field. Still having to switch out and switch back in, and having no switch ins to ground type move, right, to max Quake. I think this is the prime time for the Groudon to Dynamax. Wow, that foul play is doing really little damage. Max Quake goes into the Incineroar does not proc a Sugar Berry, and Incineroar goes down like that.
Yeah, that's a huge turner for a Papon, able to get a Max Quake off to both mitigate the damage from any Yveltal's special attacks coming out, but more importantly, gain the knockout on Incineroar so that there's nothing standing in the way of Groudon's, overwhelming attack stat. Yeah, I think now David might have to become a little bit more impatient with the Max and see if he can take advantage of the next few turns and fend off Papon's Dynamax. But, Grimmsnarl setting up the Reflect and even set up the Light Screen next would make it really hard for him.
Yeah, good shot on the Reflect. So that's why Groudon took so little damage from the Dark Aura boosted foul play from the Yveltal. One thing also to note from David's side is that we saw that Regieleki in turn 1 and David is slowly running out of max options. So having to Dynamax the Groudon on that turn, the previous turn for Papon, that was really strategic and just perfect timing. And Papon has Incineroar in the back to be able to intimidate the Zacian, so I believe nothing can KO the Groudon right now, barring critical hits, so Groudon is in really good control.
Completely agreed, and I think this is a pretty obvious turn for David to protect the Zacian, not wanting to get hit by any Scary Faces or Thunder Waves from the Grimmsnarl, and also definitely not wanting to take the Max Quake over from the Groudon. So I think this is a relatively free turn for Yveltal, who, thanks to his Dark typing, is immune to the Prankster moves coming out from Grimmsnarl. So I think it makes total sense for him to Dynamax now, and now it's all a matter of can he get the knockout on this Grimmsnarl.
Yeah, I'm curious to see why Papon didn't switch the Incineroar in. It could be quite predictable. But Grimmsnarl goes for a Thunder Wave. Yeah, does want to catch the Zacian before itself goes down, but unfortunately goes into the Protect from the Zacian. Yveltal goes next with Max Airstream, and that did really little damage, to be honest. The speeds go up, and it's Groudon's turn to actually go for Max Rockfall, somehow calling the Protect from the Zacian, since I feel like you really need to put in good pressure against the Zacian with some damage there.
Yeah, no, I think that was a great call from Papon's end, kind of acknowledging that if he can... Oh, sorry, wow, we see the weakness policy proc from the Max Rockfall, so that's big information. And yeah, now the Yveltal can totally go on the offensive now. I was going to say that, David is not in a great position because, Yveltal just took big damage after Papon read that the Zacian might go for a Protect, not doubling into it. But with the weakness policy boost coming out from the Yveltal, I think it might be able to knock out the Grimmsnarl through a potential Light Screen. So now I think David just needs to retreat the Zacian so it doesn't take any damage. And as I say that, he just stays in and goes for Behemoth Blade.
Yeah, let's see how much damage this does. And I want to go back thinking like that you sort of assess the Yveltal based on how much damage it took. Then that's quite telling that the Yveltal is oh my gosh, that just doesn't kill. Yeah, but I wanted to say like that's like the sort of a weakness policy set, and it kind of showed. But wow, even with that +1, because the Incineroar went for a parting shot earlier, so even with a +1 max Airstream, Yveltal is still not able to take Groudon down with that double up, just proving to just showing that Groudon has such immense bulk. Groudon manages to take that KO. I thought it looked a bit iffy there, but actually still manages to take that KO cleanly into the Zacian, and now David is just down to 2 Pokemon. I think one good thing from David's side is that he tries to stagger the Dynamax, and I think this turn the Groudon ends its Dynamax. So let's see how David can claw his way back in this game.
Yeah, I think one thing that was curious for me is David not going for the Max Darkness into the Groudon instead. There's no Regieleki on Papon's end, so I'm not sure if he really needed a second, speed boosts. And with the Dark Aura ability, might have been able to get the knockout a bit more likely than the Max Airstream. But yeah, like you said, Papon just has a Zacian coming out potentially, and that would probably be the only threat to the Yveltal, not able to knock out in one hit, but able to be able to knock it out in return. So I think it would be really important to consider the Regieleki. But on the other hand, I think the Grimmsnarl could be ignored a little bit because we see a Thunder Wave that doesn't affect Regieleki or Yveltal, and the Foul Play certainly doesn't affect the Yveltal as much as the Spirit Break might. But we see the tricks, so it has multiple tricks up its sleeves.
Yeah. One thing to note from the Yveltal, you did you kind of identified correctly, but the Yveltal is weakness policy, right? And if you proc the weakness policy, you boost attack as well. So Yveltal could have easily used like Max Darkness, the physical one from foul play, but I think David unfortunately did not see this opportunity. In this turn, David is just going for offense since his Pokemon are the fastest on the field, so being able to take out the Groudon, that's good, but still not able to take out the Grimmsnarl. Now with that Iron Ball on the Regieleki, I think Zacian should have good control here. Papon still needs to worry about maybe a potential fire type move coming out from the Yveltal, since Yveltal kind of prepared itself to go for 2 Airstream boosts, so it's guaranteed to be the fastest on the field.
Right. And it looks like Papon is about to send up the Incineroar, and I think this might be David's opportunity here. So I think his Dynamax for Yveltal is just about to go away. And thanks to the Incineroar being there, I think it can go for a pretty safe Oblivion Wing to heal up a lot of HP. Oblivion Wing move, unlike maybe Giga Drain, for example, that heals up 75% of the damage it deals. And with the Weakness Policy boost, it should be able to heal up a decent chunk from the Incineroar. Even if the Incineroar goes for the Fake Out into the Yveltal, the Regieleki could knock out the Grimmsnarl before it's able to attack. Even with the Iron Ball, thanks to Regieleki's skyscraper high speed stat. I think the only concern is, does the Yveltal have access to a fire move like Heat Wave? If not, if the Zacian is in the back over from Papon's end, I'm not really sure how the Yveltal can get through that Zacian, and the Regieleki we know is now slow thanks to the Iron Ball, so I think the Zacian would be in a perfect position whenever it's able to come out.
Yeah, true. I think Papon is just trying his best to keep that Yveltal in check, going for a potential double up, but David does not go for the Rising Voltage into the Grimmsnarl slot, and Grimmsnarl is able to go for foul play. This is Dark Aura Booster. This is really funny with all these Dark types. And with Grimmsnarl holding the Life Orb being stolen from the Regieleki, but unfortunately still isn't able to take out the Yveltal. Yveltal's going, HP is looking really close to getting taken out by the Sand. And I'm curious to see how much, how many more turns of Sand there are as we see the Grimmsnarl, like I said, survive through the Sand chip.
Yeah, I think that was actually a pretty clutch survival for David then, actually. So if the Grimmsnarl were to get knocked out this turn, then it would be a 2v2 situation of the Incineroar and Zacian versus Regieleki and Yveltal. But thanks to the Grimmsnarl surviving, the Regieleki might be able to do something like an Electro Web plus the Oblivion Wing from the Yveltal, get a double knockout, and then that would give a little bit more hope on David's end to do a 2v1 situation with the Zacian. Even if the Sandstorm is active, the Oblivion Wing damage on Incineroar should be able to heal back the Yveltal such that it wouldn't get knocked out immediately. So yeah.
Yeah, in hindsight, I think David did the right thing not taking out the Grimmsnarl though, because this turn Yveltal is definitely moving first, going for the Oblivion Wing to heal all the way back and not get chipped down by Hail. And then Grimmsnarl essentially can't do much because it kind of revealed most of its moveset with Trick, Thunder Wave, Trick, Iron Ball, and Foul Play, right? So, and Reflect, right? So I think David understands that Grimmsnarl is just gonna have a hard time, and then it's just staying on the field here, setting up another Reflect, but at what cost? It just seems tough for the Grimmsnarl to make any impact, and it just has to protect the Zacian, but just how far can it go with just one support move off Reflect? Sure, you get that Iron Ball into the Regieleki, but the Yveltal still seems to be in good control. So curious to see if the Yveltal has actually a way to take out the Zacian, since Papon preserved his Zacian really well towards the end game and finally gets to switch it in here.
Right, yeah, so now it's just all up to whether this Zacian can almost, like you said, 1v2 these two Pokemon, but we see the Oblivion Wing coming out from the Yveltal, wanting to heal up damage from that Grimmsnarl. Not going to be enough to take an attack from Zacian, unfortunately, but we'll see if the Zacian is targeting on the Regieleki or the Yveltal.
Yeah, notably no fire move yet coming out from the Yveltal. Yveltal's only shown just a few moves, right? Like Oblivion Wing and... is that a survival? Oblivion Wing and Foul Play. But Zacian actually targets into the Yveltal, curiously. And let's see how much this Rising Voltage does. It actually is a 3-hit KO onto the Zacian, so Papon perhaps made a decision there to kind of prevent the Yveltal from going for any more recovery with that Oblivion Wing.
Yeah, something I'm really curious about though is the fact that Regieleki has not gone for an Electro Web yet. I think that would have been a perfect place for Electro Web, right? If you go for the Electro Web, you get damage onto both, knock out the Grimmsnarl, and get some damage onto Zacian. And with the speed drop, the Regieleki, even if it's holding the Iron Ball, might be able to outspeed it next turn if the Zacian isn't trained so much in the speed. But yeah, I think because of no Electro Web, the Zacian is able to attack first and get the knockout and give Papon the first win. So yeah, it seems really likely to me that Regieleki doesn't have Electro Web, and then also we see the Rising Voltage, and I remember you commented, oh, most Eleki that are very offensive with the Rising Voltage move might have access to the Life Orb item to get those one-hit knockouts onto like Incineroar and Zacian, but we also didn't see it take the Life Orb recoil. So what item is it holding? I don't know if I've ever seen it.
It was the Life Orb because remember the Grimmsnarl stole the Life Orb. Then Grimmsnarl went for the Life Orb.
I'm so sorry. Yes. Okay. Yes.
So but then again, going back to all the tricks that Grimmsnarl has up its sleeves is kind of confusing us a little bit. But at the same time, I think like the move choice coming out from David, is very interesting because it might be that he's trying to conserve some information by not using any of the other coverage moves that these Pokemon have. Like maybe a Life Orb Regieleki might have something like a Hyper Beam, but he just didn't want to show it or didn't have the chance to Dynamax it. At the same time, Yveltal only showed Oblivion Wing and Foul Play, and I'm really curious to see what the other two moves are because in that team composition, maybe having Heatwave could be just beneficial in general in the form of team building to ensure the Yveltal has an answer to Zacian. But unfortunately, the Zacian from the Rinyasan team, from Papon, was able to pull through and get that first match win.
Yeah, I think going into game 2, I think Papon actually might have the information advantage, knowing that the Yveltal had the weakness policy, and presumably, I don't know if David has that much opportunities for him to proc his own weakness policy, other than Regieleki attacking his own Yveltal, which is not so great. So I'm really curious to see if he decides to still max the Yveltal, or just maybe even max the Regieleki, since it has a great matchup against everything except the Groudon. But yeah, we see the Regieleki and Yveltal lead coming out from David's end, and Papon leading with the Incineroar and Groudon. Groudon coming out first this time.
Yeah, so no more Incineroar Eleki and no more Incineroar and Grimmsnarl from both sides. Pretty offensive lead coming out from David here, and does threaten the KO onto the Incineroar. But while the flexibility of the Rinyasan team, you never know when Papon would just decide to bring the Gastrodon and just switch in to render that Regieleki useless. So interesting turns coming out here. Incineroar definitely has fake out pressure, and with the possibility of the Incineroar in the back, I'm not sure if Papon wants to pull the plug so early and Dynamax that Groudon.
I completely agree. On the other hand, I think David definitely has the option to Dynamax Regieleki like we talked about, especially since we know the Groudon is out and can't switch in for the Incineroar slot, could go for the Max Lightning, but on the other hand, like you said, there might be the Gastrodon, not totally wild for Papon to adjust and bring the Gastrodon this time, since, if David were to adjust himself and bring the Blastoise, Gastrodon would be the perfect answer. So, might not be the safest Dynamax right now, but when you're down one game, I think you just have to go for it sometimes, and I think David might agree with that, as he, Dynamax is the one Pokemon that stayed on the field this turn. It's gotta be the Regieleki.
Yeah, this is it. Regieleki is Dynamaxing. This gives me flashbacks. First time I saw Wolf use a Regieleki team on stream against a Rinyasan team. That was way back, I think Liverpool regionals or some other regionals in EU. He just Dynamaxed the Regieleki turn 1 and took out like Incineroar, took out Grimmsnarl. So it seems to be happening here, and this seems to be David's plan. I'm curious to see if this just works out. Papon kind of recognizes that the Max Quick into the Regieleki slot is safe, and is Dynamaxing the Groudon here. Unfortunately, get intimidated by the Incineroar. So let's see how this plays out.
Yeah, I see a Max Lightning coming out onto the Incineroar. Most likely to get the knockout and gets it, which is big for David. But now I'm more curious, does the Groudon go for the Max Quick? Like you said, it's pretty safe since the Yveltal was initially on the field at the beginning of this turn, so can't switch in for this Max Quick on the Regieleki. And does he go for the Max Quick? And yes, he does.
Yeah, this shouldn't take out a Regieleki, so... Oh, but it does! The HP bar moves so quickly. But it is
Regieleki a little too paper thin to take the Max Quake from a Groudon even through an Intimidate. So Really goes to show how frail it is and also how powerful Groudon is. And yeah, not really looking great for David. It's good for him to knock out the Incineroar, but I'm not sure if that was the biggest threat coming out on Papon's end. That Groudon is very, very tough for David to get through, especially not having the Dynamax option anymore. Can't really get a Blastoise to get some candidate action. Just really has to chip at it with the the Incineroar and the Zacian, both Pokemon that just do not appreciate a Max Quake.
Yeah, that was a very explosive turn one, and with that, both players kind of have to switch in their Zacians here. We saw the ability from David Zacian proc first, so there could be a hint for these two players as to how they want to play their Zacians, whether they want to play defensively or try to do as much attack as possible. From David's end, I believe he just switched in the Incineroar, so it does have good fake out pressure. It does seem very difficult for him to try and claw back in this game, since Groudon is just threatening so much damage with Max Quake.
Yeah, and I think it's quite obvious for David to want to switch out the Incineroar to get the Intimidate on both these physical attackers, and then protect the Zacian so it doesn't get attacked by Max Quake. But I think David might be able to take advantage of that and be a little bit aggressive with the Zacian. But he goes for the Protect, which might be more the obvious play, and we'll see if Papon takes advantage of that or falls for it.
Ooh, Papon easily takes advantage of that with that Sacred Sword. Oh, actually managing the proc that invisible focus slash on the Incineroar, and going for a max rock fall makes so much sense since you know that Yveltal's in the back, and Papon is really in such good control in this game, and the Groudon is just so impressive at -1 attack. I didn't expect it to take out the Regieleki, and it's just putting on so much pressure here, and that's really nice to see.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Really taking advantage of David's sort of passive turn, and I think that's sort of like the nail in the coffin for this game. Perhaps if David had gone for maybe a Behemoth Blade and maybe gotten a critical hit on Papon's Zacian, I think maybe could have clawed his way back in. But I think now there's just really no resources for David to get to handle both the Zacian and the Groudon and the other Pokemon in the back for Papon.
Yeah, so let's see how much this Behemoth Blade does. If it went for Behemoth Blade the last turn, then it is easily a 2-hit KO. So really a missed opportunity there. And David's Zacian once again moves first before Papon's Zacian. Let's see the damage that Papon's Zacian does, and that is kind of expected there. Another thing I want to point out is that, yeah, like you said, like with critical hits or just with like being able to move first, right? It's quite important. And unfortunately, you see David's Zacian just goes down with that double up.
Yeah, we see it go down, and now it's the Yveltal versus the world, and with no weakness policy boost, and its HP down. It's still at full health. Yeah, I'm not sure if it can handle Papon's onslaught here, so it might be of a GG's here, but I think it really impressive from both players. There's a lot of adaptation, right? Like we had the first game that was a little bit more of a stamina match where neither player really used their Dynamax early on, and it was more in the 5th or 6th turn where one of them finally used the Dynamax, whereas here it was the first turn. And I think maybe Papon might have read the fact that David would switch up the game plan and go for a Dynamax on the Regieleki instead of the Yveltal.
And just impressive to see like the flexibility of the Rinya-san team, right? So to say, with the Groudon just being able to check David's team really well with Max Quakes, right? And 3 of David's Pokemon that he brought consistently in both games. Yeah, just don't appreciate Max Quake at all, and you can throw out as many Intimidates as you want, but being able to just dish out that good damage from the Groudon is just so important, and getting the Regieleki down so early in the game just leaves Papon's Zacian to be essentially like the fastest on the field and just put good pressure against David's team. And here, yeah, David just throws in the towel here, knowing that with that Gastrodon being so difficult to remove, both Zacian and Gastrodon should be able to clean up the end game against that one poor little Yveltal. Then it has the weakness policy, but yeah, it just isn't able to make use of it fully.
Yeah, I think this is one of those matches where I really wish there was a game three, because in game one, we really see the surprise factor from the weakness policy Yveltal. If that Yveltal was able to take advantage of that weakness policy and knock out that Groudon on that one turn, then I think it really could have been David's match to win, and then this game two might have played out this exact same way where both players adjust, and David uses Regielekti's Dynamax to get knocked out in one turn and kind of ends in a quick loss like this. And then in game three, both players have to adjust again. So I really would have been interested to see how the strategies would have changed on either end again. But unfortunately, it ends as a 2-0. But yeah, I don't think it was necessarily like, you look on paper to 2-0, that's a landslide victory or something like that. But I just don't think that's the case. The first game was very, very drawn out. And yeah, I would just love to see how the Yveltal could have been used differently if there were to be a game three.
Yeah, what an excellent point. Like I felt like game one was really back and forth all the way to the end, and like David was able to put in two Pokemon with like ultimate speed control. The Yveltal being the fastest, like being able to heal with Oblivion Wing, and the Regieleki also pressuring like good damage by being fast. But yeah, just unfortunate that David went for that gambit of the Dynamax Regieleki in game two, and things didn't go out his way. And that actually brings Thailand 5-0 in such commanding fashion against Costa Rica. And it's still a bit too early to say this is week two, but it is like kind of written in paper that Costa Rica it's just almost mathematically impossible to get through to the group stage. But really just good fight, and I think good like teamwork in general from this team.
I completely agree. Yeah, it's too might be too soon to call still, but yeah, really really impressive showing regardless. Being able to get through the qualifying stage, so obviously they have some impressive runs before. But yeah, I think that might be it for this match. But coming up next, we have Andres Escobosa from the Netherlands and versus Kenneth Gamboa over from Mexico. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after the short break.